The Smiling Ghost was a silly screwball detective mystery film from 1941 starring Wayne Morris, Brenda Marshall, and Alexis Smith. Now look, I've been digging into a lot of heavier crime noir lately, and I just wanted to dive into something a little more obscure and silly. And this was the one. Honestly, didn't know many of the actors in this film. The only one I really knew was the lovely Alexis Smith, who I've seen previously in some Bogart films. But otherwise, this was all new to me. So let's take a closer look, shall we? The film opens up with the character Lucky Downing, who's played by actor Wayne Morris. I've seen previously in films like Return of Dr. X. And he's a guy down on his luck. He's this goofy, doughy character feeding his cat. He's got debt collectors waiting outside his door. And, I like him. I thought he was funny in this film. He's just got kind of this likability to him. He's here with his valet and friend, Clarence, actor Willie Best. And he gets a phone call and finds out he has a job offer. So he goes and meets with a couple eclectic old people who offer to pay him $1,000 just to be engaged for a month to their granddaughter, Eleanor Bentley Fairchild. Seems kind of weird, but he agrees and signs up. I mean, come on, he needs the money. So we cut over to the character Lil Barstow, who's played by actress Brenda Marshall. Now, she's showing up to visit with her friend Paul, who is played by actor David Bruce, who I caught a while ago in the film The Mad Ghoul. He was actually the ghoul. And his character, Paul, is stuck in an iron lung. One of those medical claustrophobic nightmares that show up in some of these old films I review from time to time. Anyhow, he's in this iron lung, and he seems convinced that this new fiancée arriving will soon also be a victim of the Smiling Ghost. So Lucky arrives in town on a train, and there's some initial confusion as he sees a more homely woman that he thinks is Eleanor, the woman he's supposed to be engaged to. And he makes some rude remarks, makes a fool of himself, and then subsequently gets slugged by her husband. It's kind of a funny scene, too, as Clarence goes up to him and tries to revive him, saying, open your eyes wide like me. The real Eleanor finally does show up, played by the lovely Alexis Smith. And after the two of them pose for a picture together for the press, they head to the family mansion. There they are welcomed by the butler, played by Alan Hale. No, not the little buddy Alan Hale Jr., but this is Alan Hale Sr., and he's the butler there. Eleanor brings Lucky in to the parlor to meet with the oddball family members, and there are plenty of silly introductions as his character is, he's just all shucks, meeting everybody. One of the characters is this great Uncle James Bentley, who's played by actor John Eggleston, who's a crazy old actor I've seen in films like Stranger on the Third Floor, who is very enthusiastic about showing Lucky his collection of shrunken heads. They look like something straight out of a Ripley's museum. And, Lucky freaks out, of course. It's a silly subplot in that this Uncle Bentley seems fascinated with Clarence and wants to shrink his head to add to his collection. I'll let you watch the end of the film yourself to see how that bit of zaniness resolves. Well, a little bit later, Lucky says goodnight to Eleanor. And on the staircase, she convinces him to give her a passionate goodnight kiss to make the role seem believable. And of course, he goes ahead with it, and wowzers, he's falling for this woman who may or may not be good news, and he heads to bed. And however, before he can get settled in, another character, cousin Tenant Bentley, who's played by actor Richard Ainley, shows up, semi-drunken, and he wants his room back. So Lucky and Clarence agree to move up to the third floor to another room. And you, the viewer, know that whenever there is a room switch scenario in a madcap film like this, something intended for one character is going to happen to the other character mistakenly. And sure enough, as Cousin Bentley lays trying to sleep, a freaky guy with kind of a Phantom of the Opera-style face comes creeping in through the shadows with a dagger to kill him, presumably thinking it's Lucky. Cousin Bentley screams, people come running, and this phantom character has vanished. Well, they all go looking, and Lucky, while idly munching on a piece of chicken, he walks outside and has a run-in with the reporter from before, Lil Barstow. She talks to him about the legacy of the Smiling Ghost and the Kiss of Death Girl, both of which he's never heard of before. He realizes that the gig he's been hired to is just to basically trap the killer, and he decides he doesn't want any part of it and he's going to leave. Well, Norton, the butler, and Clarence are looking around in the basement, and as they're investigating, we see a creepy chest slowly open with a body inside, and this, of course, causes Clarence to run off in terror and tell the others, and they discover it's Cousin Bentley, badly injured, but still sort of too out of it to talk much about who attacked him. Lucky and Clarence, meanwhile, are getting ready to leave, packing up their bags. Lucky, while trying to climb out the third-floor window down some vines, as clearly a stunt double in the scene, he clumsily makes it down to the second floor and outside of Eleanor's room. She sees him, lets him in, and when she figures out that he's leaving, she applies some sweet talk to convince him to stay. And a little sugar, too. And as you'd expect, Lucky is easily swayed by her feminine charms and is convinced to stay to solve this mystery. Eleanor tells him to go and find this Lil Barstow character to have her stop printing a story about his leaving, because earlier Lucky had talked to her and said that he was going to get out of that place. But Lucky does find her, and Lil takes Lucky to go and meet Paul, the guy from earlier in the Iron Lung, to learn more about the ghost. Paul has him look at a photo of Johnny Eggleston, fiancé number 1, who he believes is the ghost. So Lucky, Lil, and Clarence go to the graveyard to look at Johnny's crypt. And I really like kind of the set of the graveyard. It's got kind of that foggy creepiness like an old Universal monster classic film. And they get to the crypt, they try to open it up. They can't get the door open, so Lil leaves for a different key while Lucky manages to get inside. Or does something from the inside open up? Well, he goes in, he sneaks around, and look out, Lucky! This ghost character gets a drop on him. So Lil and Clarence arrive back, and they find Lucky trapped in a coffin. So they get him out in time and bring him home. Lucky has a scheme now to plan a fake wedding to lure out the ghost, but Eleanor gives him a little more sugar and suggests that they have a real wedding. And he goes along with the idea. Now we, the viewer, can tell she's playing him, and Lil, the reporter, sees it as well and leaves in a huff, as we can tell that now she's got some feelings for the guy. So the police are there. There's a storm outside, and everybody's getting ready for the wedding at midnight. Lil and Eleanor have a brief tense exchange about how Eleanor is just using this poor guy, but no, they're going to go ahead with the wedding anyway. This is a justice of the peace is there, and at that stroke of midnight, the wedding begins. But before things can really get started, the lights go out, and soon the smiling ghost is there, and he's after Lucky. What will happen? Who or what is the mysterious smiling ghost? Well, you've got to see this silly film for yourself to see. So some closing thoughts. There's honestly not a lot that can be said here about this film. It was produced by Warner Brothers and directed by Louis Sayler, and it's just a silly old film in the horror comedy genre, which was big back in the 1940s. The film is based on an original story by Stuart Palmer, who was the author of the Hildegard Withers mystery novels that had their own series of films with RKO Studios. As mentioned earlier, I've seen actor Wayne Morris before in films like Return of Dr. X, and he does a great job here as this well-meaning goofball who just needs some money, signs into this crazy deal, and gets more than he bargained for. And he's a very believable character. You want to see him get through all of this nonsense and also get together with the girl at the end of the film. Now, apparently, reading his backstory, actor Wayne Morris left Hollywood to enlist in World War II after making this film, which was actually released just 3 months prior to the attack on Pearl Harbor. And apparently he pulled enough strings to be able to enlist in the Navy, fly a Navy Hellcat, and during the war, and he shot down several Japanese planes, and he also aided in the sinking of several Japanese battleships. And the actor died prematurely in 1959 at the age of 45. I also enjoyed seeing actor Willie Best as Clarence, who was Lucky's valet and friend. And yes, I know a lot of his role was just looking shocked or making silly remarks and running away in terror. But honestly, that's mostly all Wayne Morris did. You know, the whole film is just screwball comedy. And I thought the two made a good comedy pair here as well. And finally, Alexis Smith was great here as this Black Widow character with the mysteriously disappearing fiancés. and I liked how well she played this scheming character without being too over the top. Her role in all of this zaniness kept you guessing all the way to the end. Not really sure what her scheme was here. And yes, this film could be described as a Scooby-Doo ending, but I don't mind. It was a fun horror comedy film from the 40s. You don't have to put a lot of thought into it. Just go and enjoy it. It's one worth checking out.